Tonight, my exclusive guest is Kosovo's President Vjosa Osmani. President Osmani, welcome back to our program.
Thank you very much for having me, Christiane.
I want to start by asking you whether you have seen, whether your reports, intelligence or the like, can confirm what President Vučić told me last night, that troops have been moved back from the border following your complaints and obviously following EU and US demands.
There's no confirmation yet of that happening, and we're working very closely with our allies and partners of the transatlantic community to confirm that. But it is very important to point out that as we speak, Kosovo is facing unprecedented challenges, security challenges that are stemming from Serbia's act of aggression that took place on the 24th of September. It was a clear act of aggression ordered by the decision makers, by the state apparatus of Serbia, carried out by terrorist and paramilitary groups. But this act of aggression did not happen just at once. It was well planned, well structured, and prepared with the sole purpose of a Crimea-style annexation of the north of Kosovo. Thankfully, the Kosovo police, with the support of international partners, stopped this plan from being exercised. However, what followed, as you rightly pointed out at the beginning, was an unprecedented buildup of Serbia's military forces, both army and artillery, around the border with Kosovo, but not just in the north, but also in the entire almost 400-kilometer border, which shows that they want to continue escalating. They want to continue their plan for destabilizing the Western Balkans, and through this, in fact, to allow Putin to open a new front against the West in the Western Balkans. We are working with allies and partners, and we will not let that happen. However, it is extremely important to stop that by punishing Serbia, by sanctioning Serbia. Otherwise, if there are no sanctions and no harsh measures against Serbia after this act of aggression, they will be emboldened and encouraged to use violence after violence, and not just against Kosovo, but also against the rest of the region.
Well, the EU has specifically demanded a stand down of forces, and the United States and the EU has also demanded that the instigator be held accountable. Now, you are correct that the United States found your evidence compelling of the huge weapons cache that was discovered in that area, and the incredibly sophisticated and major weapon systems that were discovered. Obviously, President Vučić denies that this was a state operation, and he told me that he would hold accountable and apprehend the instigator, which they say they have done today. That surely is a positive sign.
This is exactly straight out of the playbook of the 90s that Milosevic used, and straight out of Putin's playbook from 2014. The words, "I had nothing to do with it," well, we've heard them before, but every single evidence points to the direct connection of Serbia's leadership with what criminals like Radojicic and others have exercised in practice in the ground in the north of Kosovo. First of all, there's clear video evidence when it comes to the trainings that have been taking place within Serbia, in the military bases of Serbia, organized by the army of Serbia for these terrorist groups. Secondly, the weapons that we have confiscated show that they have been produced as recent as 6 weeks ago in the military bases of Serbia. So these are not the kind of weapons that are used by ordinary citizens, but only by the state, only by the army. And thirdly, Radojicic, the criminal who was arrested today, of course, if we look at his connection with Serbia's President Vučić, he has been his closest partner in destabilizing the rest of the Western Balkans for quite some time. He is a guy that is in the blacklist of the United States and the United Kingdom, but he participates in meetings of the National Security Council of Serbia, sitting on the right-hand side of President Vučić. So now they are hiding behind Radojicic in a cowardly way, but we have very clear evidence, which we will be published in the days to come, of direct orders coming from Vučić. So yes, he will use the Milosevic narrative, "I had nothing to do with it," but he had everything to do with it. And of course, Radojicic carried out a plan that was in and quite some time being planned in Serbia's institutions. And of course, there was also a massive campaign that preceded this aggression act against Kosovo that was being published in the days before the actual act of aggression happened.
Okay, so you've made a lot of accusations. Obviously, Alexander Vučić made a lot of accusations on this program last night. What I would like to ask you is about the EU format, the dialogue for normalization. We know that the Serbian president has not signed it. He also said to me, peace is a priority, that he's open to dialogue now. So here's what he told me, and we'll talk about it in a moment.
Yeah, we were very ready, and we are always very ready to negotiate. And we were very constructive, and we will remain so. But you need to understand, there is something that everybody in the European Union already realized. Pristina is not ready to create association of Serb municipalities. That is the biggest obstacle. And they want to continue with gradual ethnic cleansing of Serbs, particularly in northern Kosovo. But anyway, I am always available, always at disposal to our interlocutors, to our European friends, American friends, all the others. And we'll be ready to discuss all the issues. And as I said at our last meeting, form the Association of Serb Municipalities will deliver on everything that we have promised. And I believe that peace is the best interest of Serbia, the best interest of an entire region.
Madam President, I'm sure you will push back on his accusations, but I do need to ask you the following. Because even the United States has urged you to press ahead with forming the association, the municipalities in the north, and complete the EU brokered deal. There is apparently a modality, a timing to this deal. Will you do that? Will Kosovo do that to enable what you want? And that is the recognition of passports and all sorts of other, support, or at least not hindrance, of your international participation.
Christiane, Kosovo is under attack. Kosovo is a victim of an act of aggression that happened just a week ago. Of course, the very first thing that we want is to have Radojčić and other terrorists handed over to the Republic of Kosovo so that real justice can be delivered. Serbia does not have a good track record when it comes to delivering justice. There hasn't been a single case where the criminals that have committed war crimes and genocide in Kosovo and Bosnia actually were put in front of justice. Secondly, there is only one constructive party in that dialogue, and that has been the Republic of Kosovo, which has implemented over 99% of its obligations from these 12 years. It's exactly the opposite what Vučić has been doing. As he stated in your interview, he says, I'm ready to negotiate. But in fact, he never implements, he never walks the talk. There's a very long list of obligations that he has taken aboard as Serbia since 2011. You've mentioned diplomas, you've mentioned the rest. In 2013, Serbia committed to dissolve all illegal structures, parallel structures in the north. What happened is that they got strengthened and turned into a gang, a transatlantic criminal group that is now committing terrorist actions and an act of aggression in Kosovo by the order of Serbia. When it comes to the Republic of Kosovo, what we have undertaken in the Brussels agreement back in February of this year, what we have undertaken in the annex of Ohrid in March of this year, Kosovo has committed to implement, and Kosovo will implement its obligations stemming from this agreement.
Right. That means
and
the
from
municipalities, correct?
We are not getting away from. That means what Article 7 of that agreement provides, which is self-management for the Serbs, and that means also the rest of the articles. But let's not forget what Kosovo is asking for is very straightforward and simple. We want balance, we want fairness in that dialogue, which unfortunately we did not get.
All right.
And that lack of balance and lack of fairness in the process has also encouraged Vučić to act as he did on Sunday, to commit an act of aggression because he believes he can get away with it.
Well,
his criminal groups have attacked 93 KFOR soldiers back in May. There have been no accountability. Now they thought they can get away. They attacked Kosovo. There must be accountability. There should be no impunity for the criminal acts that Vučić is being committed against Kosovo.
As I say, Mrs. President, Madam President,
this business as usual any longer.
You have made your point. I need to ask you something else, and that is that this tension, obviously, we all know, has been existing since the 90s. Your self-declared independence is recognized by half the General Assembly, more than half. Serbia hasn't yet recognized it, and so there's a lot of tension. But there's another thing that the EU says, and it sounds nitpicky to an international audience, but it's about the driver's licenses and the dispute over the driver's licenses. An EU official told us that, Kosovo, and particularly the Kurti government, your Prime Minister's government, has not contributed yet to a constructive atmosphere of the dialogue, which they're trying, to undermine from the start of Kurti's term in office. Everybody, the United States and EU, all your allies are telling you all, and Serbia, there is no way forward but the EU-facilitated dialogue. Why is it impossible to the Kosovars, the Kosovar government, to implement the driving license agreements that you've had?
It is not impossible. In fact, we have listened to the advice of our allies and the compromise solutions that we have put forward. But the issue is even simpler than that. We're talking about Milosevic time-issued driver's license, and we're simply, and of course, license plates, and we're simply asking to use the ones that now the Republic of Kosovo recognizes. It's like asking people in Poland after the Second World War to use driver's licenses or license plates issued by Hitler. Of course, these are
Madam President, that's very inflammatory. That's very inflammatory. I've covered your region. I know the pain. I know the history. I'm trying to figure out whether there's any way between you and your neighbor Serbia to take some responsibility on both sides and actually move this beyond perpetual tension, violence, and the threat of war in the region. I just want to know whether you are willing and your side is willing to do what everybody's asking the Serbs to do as well.
We have taken every single step to be the constructive party in that table. We have proposed a sequencing plan for the implementation of the Brussels Agreement. Serbia has not proposed its own yet. We have acted on the advice of our allies. The misunderstandings that we have had have all been overcome. Now we are in full, not just agreement, but also coordination with the international allies. But what is important right now is to point out that Kosovo is under attack. There has been an act of aggression. It is acts of aggression that kill innocent people, like our police officer, that are inflammatory, not self-defense against these acts of aggression. I wish Serbia would have implemented its side of the obligations in these past 12 years or so, because that would have truly contributed to a dialogue that is principled and in good faith.
Let us hope.
On one side, of course, we have Vučić, who talks about peace.
Let us
hope. And on the other side, of course, we have his 48 forward military bases around the border with Kosovo.
All right, let us hope that both of you can resolve this issue.
Military bases.
Let us hope that both of you can resolve this issue according to the EU.
There's no both sides.
Nobody does, and I certainly do not. But everybody has obligations, and we're all trying to figure out whether all sides, because all sides have to actually commit to their obligations. So I asked you a very simple question about licenses and municipalities. You've answered me, and now we will move on. And we thank you for your interview. President Vjosa Osmani, thank you very much indeed.